Okay, so this is a video on movement mechanics and just kind of the way our bodies move through motions. It doesn't matter what action you're doing or what sport you're doing. We kind of move the same way, and I think this is the easiest way to explain it. We kind of move like a slinky, so one side to the other side to the other side, just like a slinky going down some stairs. So the breakdown of this, everything always starts from vertical, and then depending on which side you're starting from, just for the sake of the show, we're going to pretend you're standing on your feet and you're trying to make a move. Your head goes first, so that's what we're seeing there. And then because your head has moved, because that part of the slinky's moved, the rest of your body kind of follows along. So your head pulls your hips, and then because your head and your hips have moved, eventually your toes also get pulled along for the ride. So head pulls hips, pulls toes, and what do we know? Boom, we got another vertical. So this would be like a front handspring or a kick to handstand or something like that. Let's say it's up front layout even. So this would be the upside down position in the air when you're doing a front layout. And then the continuation of this is, now that we're upside down, things actually reverse. So now your head is not going to lead, your toes are going to lead. So your toes lead your body off, and because your toes are going, eventually your hips follow. Because your toes and your hips have moved, eventually your head follows. Just like that. Okay, so now we can see this movement pattern in actual play with some gymnastics. So I ripped this video from Chelsea Mimel's Instagram. She's just doing some TikToks and like whip talks on the trampoline. So front handspring, back handspring, front layout, back layout. But we can literally watch this motion happen and kind of understand how these skills are built. So to start, she's starting from vertical, and the first thing she does is sit her chest backwards. Of course, her head and her chest move together. So those are kind of, I'm using those interchangeably, but head or chest, either way. First thing that goes is her head and chest. And of course, as her head keeps moving backwards and down to the floor, just like that slinky, her hips are pulled along in the chain. And as though her head and her hips move, her toes are also pulled along in that chain. So we can see how that works. Head, hips, now toes. And then it keeps going until she contacts the trampoline, and now her hands can't go anymore. Her head can't go anymore. It's stuck. Because it's stuck, she's pressing into the trampoline. Because it's stuck, we pass through this nice vertical. So let's watch that again. Head and chest move. They keep moving, they keep moving. Her hips are pulled along. Her hips keep moving, keep moving. Her toes are pulled along, keep moving. And boom, we arrive in our vertical. Now, her head never stopped moving down and backwards. That's what makes this system work. It continues moving the entire time, just like you would in a back whip. But because it's stuck, can't continue moving anymore, we see that reversal of the movement pattern. Head is stuck, we pass to the vertical, but we keep moving, so now her toes lead. As her toes continue moving, her hips follow. And as her hips continue moving, her head follows last. So you can play that back. Head moves, hips follow, toes follow. And now the reversed. Toes move, hips follow, head follows. That's our back handspring. And then we can see that exact same thing play out forward. Her head leads. Because her head is going down, 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 those hips get pulled along. Because her hips are now going down, 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 her toes are pulled along for the ride also. And then, of course, she's stuck. Can't go down anymore. So we hit that vertical, and now the process reverses again. Toes go. Hips follow. And lastly, head and chest follows. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. So that's basic movement. So now that we've seen that movement pattern, both theoretically with the slinky and then in action with Chelsea Mimmels trampoline, let's watch this vault drill. It looks like she's getting a ton of rotation, right? But if we run it through our test here, let's see what she's actually doing. What's happening with her head here? It's going nowhere, right? So, or not nowhere, but actually it's going the opposite direction. It's going up, 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 up. So she's trying to rotate forward, as we can see from her toes, but her head is trying to rotate the opposite direction. So while this is a very nice, pretty layout, when you play this through and you try to build on this and into bigger front handspring vaults, like your handspring front tuck, handspring front pike, or handspring twisting, anything in that direction, this is where you're going to see rotation and heel drive problems. Because a simple layout, yeah, sure, she'll make it over. She stays arched, so of course she's going to keep the rotation that she does create, but we're not going to get that block. We're not going to get that post-flight rotation. We can play this through in our movement chain still, even though her head doesn't follow what we would want to see for a nice movement chain rotation, but it still works the same. So she hit the board and she decided to drive her heels. There's a reason why I don't like that phrase. She drives her heels, so her heels are going to move, and the rest of her body basically has to wait. So if we started with her head, her head, then her hips would follow, and then her toes would follow in that nice chain. But because she started with her toes, her entire body has to wait until her toes are leading. So she's not getting any rotation. Watch her chest here. I'll put a line where her chest is. She's not getting any rotation. Just hasn't moved until her toes finally pass the rest of her body. And now we'll see that movement chain. Her hips follow. And then lastly, her head follows around. So basically what she's done in this scenario is, instead of starting with her head to lead the chain, she's driving her heels, she's leading with her feet, and that delays the entire process. You're starting on the back end. So we'll compare that last layout to this. Obviously, this is an older athlete doing a much bigger skill, so there's a difference in power and rotation there, but we'll break down the mechanics of it. Boom. Huge front full. Easily rotates. He could probably flip out of this without even touching the table. So why are we seeing so much different height and rotation in this, besides the obvious athlete strengths? Well, as we talked about, his head leads the rotation. So his head goes down, 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 down. Let me redraw that arrow. His head goes down, 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 down. And we can see, because that's happening, his hips follow, as we said. And because his hips follow, his toes also follow. Head down, 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 hips pull, pull, toes are going. There you go. And then just like as we saw on the trampoline video, once you get to vertical, your head is down as much as it can. You can't take it down anymore. The toes now lead the process. So toes are moving, which is going to pull his hips again, which is going to finally bring his head and chest into the equation. So that's real rotation right there. Or efficient rotation right there, I should say. So if you've ever heard anybody talk badly about heel drive, this is the reason why. When your feet lead it, you're actually delaying everything that you get from the board, and in the long run, you don't get the rotation that you think you see in those front handsprings. Let me play that through one more time in slow motion so you can see it. Head down, hips pull, toes follow. One more time, a little bit slower. Head, hips, toes. There's vertical, toes, hips, head. Okay, here we have Hak Seon Yang. Monster vaulter. Like, technically, he's a beast. So we can see some of that movement chain in his vault here. He's doing, I think it's handspring triple full, but we'll recount the twist when we get there. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Yep, handspring triple full, and it is gorgeous. One more time. All right, so let's figure out how this works. This guy's a pro, and he's definitely pretty strong and pretty quick twitch. So let's check it out. So that movement chain that we saw before with Chelsea and in the spring, he is creating from the springboard. So that's basically what all of your entry work and all of your springboard stuff, your handstand flatbacks. The purpose of all that is to figure out how to create this movement chain from the springboard. So here we go. See him hit it. And then right from the get, he is reaching straight for the table. So what that's going to do is convert all the power that he gets in the rung and from the springs into that movement chain we saw before. So let's see. Boom. So he's reaching. So of course, his head and chest are going to go. His hips are going to follow. And of course, his toes go along for the ride. Boom, boom, boom. So that's that same movement pattern we saw before. Reaching, 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 hips follow, 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 and then finally his toes. So where do this idea of heel drive come from? Well, it's two-sided. So, of course, we have, let me zoom in on it. Of course, you have the board down here. The springs doing their job. So because he is rotating down, his chest is rotating down from the board. You can see that here. His chest is rotating this way. That means as his feet follow, they are also rotating in that same direction. So with the help of the springboard and our efficient rotation, whoom, his feet get launched in the air. Secondary, or not secondary, alongside that, we also have his contact with the table. So we've created this rotation downwards. What happens when his hands and his chest can't move anymore? Well, I mean, the same thing that happened as we saw in the TikToks or in the front full. When your head and your chest reach the bottom of that rotation, they can't go any farther down. In this case, that is happening because he has contacted the table. So he literally can't go any farther. So now we're going to have that reversal of the movement chain. So so his head and chest can't go anywhere now. So we're going to switch it up. Now, boom, the toes are going to lead. The hips are going to follow. And then lastly, we get that chest following through the bottom. Everybody see that? There it goes. Hips follow. Toes follow. We have contacted the table. Boom. We've got that extra little boost from the springboard. And of course, once we have stopped on the table, now our toes can continue to lead the rotation. So that's how he's getting this monster vault out. And of course, that's where that idea of heel drives comes from. He's not necessarily trying to throw his feet up. He may be in his head, but It's just action reaction from this rotation. Trying to go down, oh, can't go down anymore, we're up there. Alongside, smash the springs, springs launch your feet. So those two things. On the other hand, we also have our block, another important part of vault. Most people think of block as like some sort of shrug that you're doing on the table. And of course, if you watch this in slow motion, it does look like he's sinking and then throwing the table away from him. But again, this just goes back to our movement chain. He hit this table in like a downward rotating circle. So we did this. What that does is it's once he contacts that table, he can't go downward anymore, so his entire body gets loaded with force. It's kind of like compressing a spring, right? He hits it going downward. No, he can't go down anymore, but his body's still moving down, 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 down. So when he finally breaches that tipping point, in this case, the tipping point being his toes pulling him off the table, that all the load that he got from that downward rotation is now going to turn into bounce. And that's a block. So if you're struggling with getting your kids to block off the table, almost guarantee it's because when they hit the board, instead of creating this path, they're doing one of these. Some kind of direction, either up and over the table, or they're going straight into the table, or they're going up and then down, something like that. But whatever they're getting, it's not rotation.